Hello, friends. It's Missy Shipman with Missy's Glad Heart Studio. Happy November. Once again, I'm delighted to partner with our friend Julia at the Baldwinsville Public Library to bring you a card making workshop. If you picked up your kit from the library, you'll notice there's an abundance of paper this month. I have 6 pieces of designer series paper, and I'm going to share with you 2 different ways you can use designer series paper to make some really fun gift packaging. But we'll also have a card project. This is one lovely card for Thanksgiving, or it makes a beautiful sympathy card at this time of year, or it could be a birthday card, whatever you choose with your greeting. But these papers are really elegant. And then we also have a fun little Christmas project that can be a journal. So I'm going to share some tips on how to do that. I did have a request this month to share with you how I score, how I make those creases in the cardstock. And so Julia will remind me if I forget that I want to show you 2 of my favorite tools that I use for scoring. So tonight, let's begin with our Thanksgiving or gratitude or fall birthday card. The kit will look something like this. It will have a Blackberry Bliss piece of cardstock and then several pieces of the designer series paper. Now, I'm going to share with you how I cut and score the paper for this kind of card. Yours already has those score marks where you'll be creasing, but I wanted to show you how I use my paper trimmer to both cut and score. So this trimmer has 2 blades. The black blade is the cutting blade, and the gray is for scoring. Now, I like to say park the dark. You want to park the cut blade away when you're scoring so that it doesn't get in the way. The scoring is what makes that crease line that makes it easy to fold. So we've parked the dark. We're going to score first. And what I'm going to share with you is a way you can actually prep for 2 cards at one time. So our cardstock comes in 8.5 by 11-inch sheets. A standard card with card making is half of that at 5.5 by 8.5. And so what I'm going to do first is score down the whole page, and then I'll cut it in half. And that way I've got 2 cards ready to score, ready to crease and fold and create. So for this card, we're scoring, I'll share with you here. I'm going to score it in half at 4.25, and then I'm going to score it also at the 1.25 mark. This is a special fold that I love. I learned this from my friend Cindy, who lives in Hawaii, and we love to partner together for card making projects. And we like to make cards that have pockets, so I'll share about that. Remember, I've parked the dark. I'm scoring with the gray blade. I like to push down, and up. Now later when I do scoring with the designer series paper, you'll notice I'm not going to push down as hard because that paper is more fragile. Cardstock, though, is pretty sturdy, and it's okay to, you'll get a feel for the right amount of pressure, but you want to give a good amount of pressure. Now we're going to use that the cutting blade, to cut the cardstock in half at 5.5 inches. Just one slice, and now we have cards ready to make this pattern twice. And the one we're using tonight is the Blackberry Bliss. Now, we've had questions about how we fold the paper once it's been scored. And the idea is you want to hide the pimple, show the dimple. So the part that's bumped up is actually the part we're going to fold in, and we're going to fold that across. Then you can use your bone folder to crease that fold. Now, if I were to make a pocket card, like my friend Cindy and I like to make, I would fold this piece inside. But for our card today, we're having the front layer fold over to the front. So I'm going to reverse that fold and score. So in that case, I did not hide the pimple, show the dimple. I did the opposite, and you'll see that that works just fine. But if you're different types of paper, when the grain of the paper, just like fabric, paper has a weave and a waft, and there's one way it's happier to fold than the other. So when you're kind of fighting the paper, it's a great idea to do that scoring and to fold it how we described. So let's decorate the card now with our pieces. We have a larger piece of designer series paper, we're going to use that on our envelope, on the envelope flap. We'll do that in a moment. But these pieces are the ones that are going to go on our card. These are these lovely foil pieces. And the other side is lovely too. It has kind of a wheat pattern on this one. Let me get my glue going here. This is our Tombow multi-purpose glue. Sometimes we call it the green glue. A little goes a long way, so you want a thin thread. If you get kind of a glob like I did, you can take the lid off the other side and use that to spread it around a little bit better, because you don't want big globs to squeeze out on your project. We're going to position that over on the left-hand side with a border at the top, the side, and the bottom, just about 1/4 inch around the edges there. Then we're going to take our dimensionals and kind of lock down this fold, just like this. These are the little dimensionals. We just peel off those wax liners and push it over like this. Now I'll take my other piece. Let's cover up. You don't want to push when you have both caps off, because the glue will come out at both ends and make a mess. So I'm going to just scribble a little thin line, like a thread of glue, along here. And it doesn't matter which piece you put on either side. They're cut the same dimensions. Yep, either one is fine. On my samples, I have the darker piece on the far right, but it's really your own taste. They're cut the same dimension, 5 1/4 inch by 1 inch pieces. So that just gives a fun interactive card. If you want it to be like a pocket, then you would fold your paper the other direction. I'll show you that quickly with the blue piece. If I fold this in, when I open it, I have a little pocket here. I can put a tea bag or a gift card or something like that. I frequently make those cards too. Now for our stamping, we are going to use, I'm going to show you a couple different samples, and then I'll use a current product that we used last month as well. It's called Heartfelt Hexagon. It makes this great shape punch that I've already punched for you. And a tip to stamping is generally to stamp first and then punch. And the reason we want to do that is because then we can line up our punch more easily. So I'm going to stamp the outline image on my piece of vanilla. Remember, yours is already ready for you. So this is just to show you a trick when you have an image like this that's going around the edge in a special, more detailed way. It's a little hard to line it up when I don't. I did okay here, but see how some of the dots are running off the edge? So the general rule is to stamp first and then punch. Now for our greeting, I think this makes a really lovely sympathy card, and I'm going to do that. That's a card that we often need, and it's good to have in your stash so that in that time of sadness, you have one ready to share and ready to get in the mail. Sympathy cards, though, I always say to people, don't delay. If you need to get one at the store, that's okay, because you do want to be timely with that. So if you're a stamper and you have a stash, this is a good one to put in your stash. But I've learned to not wait until I have the perfect card to get a sympathy note in the mail. Now our punches have kind of this window in the back. And so that's how I'm going to line up now these dots. And if I take my time, I can make it more neat all the way around the edge this way, because I've taken the time to stamp first and then punch. Okay, this is a beautiful color called Blackberry Bliss. And in your kit, you also have these little pieces of gold vellum. So we're going to add those to the card. And one way I like to use my dimensionals is to adhere small pieces like this as well as the larger label. Now the label will go just on this half here that's going to fold open. So I want to make sure my adhesive isn't over on the right side. It's just going to be here on the left side. I'll put 3 dots, 3 dimensionals.
The famous
And
triangle.
then the dimensionals are going to stick the label to the card, but they're also going to adhere these little leaf punches that I made for you with the gold vellum. So I'm just tucking them onto the back of the dimensional. If you don't have dimensionals, you could use other adhesive to do this step. But I do love how the dimensionals make things pop. There we are. With sincere sympathy. This is a lovely card. Now you also have a little bit of bling, I hope, in your envelope that looked like these little gold sequins. Oh, good, Julia has hers. I'm so glad. So I'm going to take some of these. Now the glue on these isn't as stable as sometimes other ones that I've used. So when you pick it off, you have to be sure you get the adhesive piece along with the gold sequin. You can use take your pick tool to do this. You can use your finger. You can also use a paper snip and to help you lift it with that glue. I sometimes have an easier time with my hands, but I want to show you how I can use my tips to do that. You know, I usually make a triangle with 3, but I'm actually going to do 5 on this card. You had 5 in your kit. If you want to use them all, you can feel free to do that. So I'm going to have a little triangle on the label, and then I'm also going to have the 2 up above. So it's an odd number, but it adds some more sparkle, just picking up on the foil, on the vellum printed with the gold. There. Now, as you know, we like for the inside of our card to be able to write on easily. And if you have a white marker, you could do it here on the darker cardstock. But in this case, I've provided the vanilla for you so that you can put a lighter piece inside and then use any pen to write your message. There we are. Now let's make the envelope flap so that our project is a little more decorated. Move this things a little bit away so it doesn't distract you too much. I'm keeping my screen broader tonight because I am showing you some of those tools, and they're a little bit bigger than our normal screen. I'm going to use a thread of this glue all around the flap and place my birds here. This beautiful paper with the birds and the foil wheat accent. Oh, and sometimes the little sequins end up in funny places. Now we'll give the envelope a haircut with our paper snips. We're just going to trim this off all the way around. And you'll notice I'm turning the paper. My scissors are staying pretty stationary, but I'm turning my paper.
Yep, you can
as
use
I cut.
Either side.
Either side is beautiful, isn't it? That blackberry color is so pretty. So there we have a really elegant card ready for your stash. As we said, this is a good one to have on hand so it can get into the mail right away to have a sympathy. But if you have a November birthday or you want to make a gratitude card, another pretty greeting this is one of my favorites from my collection that I've had for many years. It says, "Gratitude can transform common days into Thanksgivings." I think that's such a nice greeting. And you'll notice that it's shiny and raised. It's called heat embossing. And we did some heat embossing in our in-person class last month, and we'll do it again this month in November. So if you're interested in learning about that, see how it has a raised shine to it. That's a really fun stamping technique that we're able to do now with our in-person class, which is coming up later in November. It's later this month than normal. Oh, I'm going to show you about that too, Julia. Thank you for reminding me about my little stencil piece. Those of you who know about our in-person class, it's generally the second Friday of each month. This month in November, it will be the third Friday. The library has some training on the 10th, and it will be closed to the public. So we'll be having our class on the 17th of November. Now, one thing that I thought would be fun to do, because when I made your label for your card, I punched it out so you'd also have a little stencil. Now, one way you can use the stencil on an envelope, this is true especially if you are hand delivering it, although you might write small enough you could put the whole address in here. But what we're going to do is create a little kind of a shadow window. Here's the sample. I was a little heavy-handed with my ink here, but it's just made a little bit of a stencil shadow. And to do that, we're going to use some ink from our ink pad. I'm just going to tap it onto this clear block. I just learned this tip from my good friend Nora. We were at a demonstrator event last week, and rather than putting my brush, my blending brush, right into my ink pad, she suggests creating a little palette of ink on a clear block. It gives you a little more concentrated ink, doesn't mess up your ink pad, and lets you just have a little better control. So I'm going to swoosh this on here. If you have well, Q-tips are a little bit fussy to use for this, but if you have a cotton ball or a sponge, and in one of these months coming up, I have some sponges to include in the kit. It'll either be the November or the December kit. But what I'm going to do is start off a little bit and just swirl in this ink. Okay. Would a rag work? Yes, you could use like a Kleenex or a fabric scrap. You'll see sometimes you get little wiggles or imperfections here, but what it's done is just create a little shadow. So then I could write, Dear Julia, when I give her this card, this kind of special handwriting inside there, and it accents the card. All right. So that's just a little tip. When you have a negative image from a punch or a die cut, you can create a stencil. Okay, let me close up my inks here so I have less of a mess around me, and we'll set those cards aside. The next project that we'll work on is the Christmas. It can be a journal, or you can have it be a card. So what you'll need is in your pack, it'll either be a blue journal. Let me show you. This is one that I haven't glued together, but it's kind of the way it would be finished. Or you have a lovely coral melon color journal. Okay. Both of those I think look really beautiful with this olive green. All right. Sort of a non-traditional Christmas, right? It's not the red and green. It's a little bit of coral or the blue. And then inside the journal, you'll have your green piece. We're going to alter this with one of my tools. And then you have a vellum envelope to make the Christmas. Now the journal does have an up and a down, because you'll see the line at the bottom. The margin is bigger here. So that's the top of your book. It's not too dramatic, but you can see this distance is bigger than this distance at the bottom. So I recommend you have that little bit of wider margin at the top of your journal. And you may decide to set aside your journal and use it for something different and give this card to someone in the envelope. But it's a card that I wouldn't recommend putting through the mail, because it does have some mixed media, and we'll talk about that. So let's start by taking out the vellum envelope. And I'm going to remove the white, and I think it'll show up better as I'm working on the wood here. Okay, so this is a cool vellum envelope. It's kind of a sneak peek of what's inside. And we have, this is a card. It's not a card that opens. It's just a one piece of a card. We made these when we first started our Zoom classes a couple years ago, when Julia and I began. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe in October. And we made some different ones that were like this. They're great to put on your fridge or to kind of stand up somewhere, but they don't open. Now, we are using a variety of mixed media pieces for this. So you have 3 triangles. These are going to create the tree. I'll put the completed sample next to it so we can show you where we're heading. All right. And we have a banner that has the letters Christmas. Now, some of you, the little part of the R is still in there. And some of you, it's missing, like my sample here. So what I did was I put the little star there to make that little filler inside the letter R. But you might have a little piece of that inside your R. It looks like Julia's does. So she has options. She can use the little green piece, or she can use the star. Now, the design is to punch out all of these letters and use the negative space. Again, we have kind of a stencil here. So what I'm going to do is just carefully punch out these letters, and I'm going to save them so that I can use them for another project. I can now spell out Christmas really beautifully on another project. So you'll have a Ziploc little bag that has the wood pieces in it. This might be where you can store those letters while you're deciding what you want to make with them. But for tonight's project, we are using the negative space little banner. Okay, there we are. And I just realized there's also that little piece of the A that's missing too. So it's okay. Handmade with love. If you really wanted to have those little pieces filled, you're going to have some extra pieces with the green, and you could cut a small piece to put that in if that's important to you. And I understand that it could be important to you. Some people have more particular, I'm usually a let the stamps dance, but I can also want to have a particular design. So before we adhere things, we're going to simply lay them out and make sure we have all the pieces we want here. We have some lovely metallic gold foil pieces. They're a little bit fragile. Take your time as you get those punched out. And they have a lot of those little pieces inside. We're gonna keep poking them out. I love the shine of gold foil. There we are. And we have the word little. So you can see where we're going here. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Now that song will be in your head for always. Do you appreciate how right after Halloween, boom, everything switches to Christmas at the stores? If you're like me, you also really enjoy Thanksgiving. So that's why we wanted to be sure to have our Thanksgiving card, our gratitude card today as well. Julia, do you have all your parts so far?
I don't seem to have the little.
The little, okay. It was all on this one piece of gold that has yourself and little.
Yes, there it is.
Right from there, okay. And then there's different languages in these punch outs. I'm going to use English. It says have, but you could use the German or the French words if you wanted to be I don't know, what would you be if you were doing that? You'd be fluent. You'd be bilingual. So we have, and there's a few little pieces to pop out of that. Have yourself a merry. Now, the original project with Stampin' Up! Had a stamp that had the letters A, the words A, merry. But I've chosen to use a Sharpie pen, and you could use a permanent marker. There could be a little bit of bleeding with this. If that offends you, you could write directly onto the paper or stamp something here. If you have an alphabet stamp set, you could stamp the words A, merry. So you have some options, but for today, I'm going to show you how I just write it on with the Sharpie marker. So, because these are the words you kind of need. Have yourself, really, to make the song complete, we need the words A and merry. There we are. Okay, we'll get everything lined up before we adhere them. So I'm going to write the letter A and then the word merry, M-E-R. I make my R's kind of funny because I had enough space. A merry little Christmas. All right. We also have these little wood pieces, and we're going to add those last. So I'll go ahead and put together the pieces that we have so far. I'm going to use just a little bit of glue. Remember, dot, dot, not a lot. Because even though this glue does dry clear, it's a little bit tacky, and it will have a little bit of texture that you can see. It's clear, but you can kind of see the glue if it spills out. One of the things that Stampin' Up! Has added recently to our product line are called adhesive sheets. And if you were to die cut these images, you can first put the adhesive sheet on there. And then after you die cut it or punch, you just peel off the liner, and then it's a sticker. And there are other products that make this too. Okay. Oh, it says time left. Okay. What we'll do, Julia, is finish up this project, and then we can start a second meeting to do the third. Is that okay?
That works. Yep.
Okay. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. I'm going to just add a little bit to the glue to the wood and the little. And there we are. And I have this tiny piece that's going to be the dot to the eye. What I'll do is put a little dot on the paper where I'm adding the glue, instead of trying to handle this once it's gluey. And then our banner. So again, I'm just dot, dot, not a lot, just kind of across the parts where there's a spot to have a little dot of glue. A Merry Little Christmas. Now we're going to add our wooden elements, again, using that same adhesive.
Don't forget to fill in the R.
Thank you. I'm going to use a little star for my A and my R this time. And then, but remember, if you wanted to match it up with the green, you could take like this word Noel in French or Fest in German, which means Christmas. Then you could just cut a little piece of here with your paper snips and put it into there if you'd like it to be green. So let's go ahead. I'm going to, before I put down my triangles, I want to put this kind of long trunk down in place. Of that. You might get a little bit sticky. Okay. So for the tree, I think on my sample, I did it flat here, but I'm going to actually use dimensionals because I've got that wood piece that's popping up. Let's see, here's my dimensionals. Okay. And I'm just going to put one on each end bottom of the triangle here so that it will kind of sandwich that piece of wood. Now I can go ahead and just glue the other pieces because they can be pushed down. Now already I've misplaced that little, here it is, my triangles. Your desk is hopefully not as messy as mine. It's hard to keep, I want to have things handy for me, so I have them while I'm filming, but it does mean that they're kind of all right here. If you could see the desk from that view, it would be kind of comical. So there you have it. Have yourself a Merry Little Christmas. But let's put these stars in here. I'm going to put a little dot in the A, a little dot in the R. Now, this might be fun, I think, as a journal that you would want to keep all the lists that we need at Christmas time, the recipes, the gift-giving lists, the size of your nephew, what size they wear, if you're purchasing them a gift that needs to be the right size. Maybe you're listing memories or favorite songs that people in your family love. It could be where you're keeping the calendar of your events. It's a busy season, and so a journal would be a fun spot. I hope you'll have fun using the journal for the holiday season or giving it to someone as a gift.
I like the little square pieces have a sort of an up and a down on them.
The little square pieces, which do you mean?
I'm sorry, the little wooden pieces, the stars.
Oh, yes, they do. Yeah, I didn't pay too much attention, but they do. The way they're laser engraved, there's a little more of the brown wood showing like on this one than that one. I didn't really pay attention. You're right, Julia. It makes it a little more 3D if you pay attention. This one kind of pops out a little bit more. Great. You can see how you will use adhesive to adhere the journal if you want your olive piece and your white embellished piece, or you can choose to share this as a special gift card in this beautiful vellum envelope. I just would not recommend mailing it through the postal service because of the wooden elements. So you can layer it onto your journal like this. Now the way I modified the olive just by using this scoring tool, similar to my paper trimmer. I'm going to just score at every 1/4 inch and just drag. Now I'm only going to do a couple parts to show you, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's completed. We're just dragging, and this is just going to transform the paper. It'll be a little bit of a texture. So I hope that's fun. So our third project, kind of third and fourth, is our 2 gift packaging ideas using 12 by 12 designer series paper. Now, card makers call this paper DSP, stands for Designer Series Paper. And what's lovely is that it's double-sided, So you get to choose when you're making projects which side you want to feature. And I'm going to share with you this first project using the designer series paper is able to show both designs because I've folded over the top outwardly so that the inside design shows. Now, if you want only the one side to show, we'll demonstrate this next one this way, where we're going to fold that top in. It's important to still have a double layer at the top just for strength in your project. Okay, so you can see this is a pretty substantial size bag. It has 3-inch gussets and a 6-inch across the front and back. So you can put quite a bit of goodies in here. It is made of paper, even though we have a piece of chipboard that we place in the bottom to give it some stability. You wouldn't want to put something very heavy in here. For example, a candle, if you gave to someone, it could be too heavy. And even if you're handing it to someone, you would want to have support underneath. But cookies and jewelry and candy and all kinds of treasures can fit inside of here. A book, if it's not too heavy, write a paperback book maybe.
Anything
And
wrapped
this
in that,
is
I was going to say that wrap the light paper the crumpled paper like you have in the
tissue paper. Yes,
tissue
tissue paper is fun, and this to kind of, if you have a smaller gift, it elevates the gift when you have some tissue paper. Now, this is a similarly made package with designer series paper made by my friend Nancy Burt Priest, and this has really yummy soap inside. It's cinnamon smelling soap. So you can use the same idea that I'm going to share with you today with smaller pieces of designer series paper to make different size packaging. So what you'll need to do is you have 2 each of 3 different designs, and you'll want to pick which design you want to use for this project. I'm going to use this black and white geometric pattern, and I'm going to prepare both sheets the same way. So I'm going to take my Simply scoreboard. It comes with the stylus tool that has 2 ends. One is a little larger ball than the other. I'm going to use the smaller ball, and I'm going to start. In this case, the paper does have an up and down, not so much on the front, but on the back. So I'm going to make sure I have them the same so that when I do my scoring, I will make sure that the flap, if I wanted to flip it over and have you see it, I'd want those to be consistent. Now, Julia, can you see better if I'm scoring on this side, this paper, or this paper, do you think?
the black and white probably.
Okay, great. So let me go ahead. I'm flipping them so they're both the same, but I'm going to do one at a time. So my dimensions are very simple. The paper is 12 by 12, and I'm going to score the top is at 2 inches. So I'm doing that first. That's the flap that either folds in or out on my bag. Then I'm going to turn my paper 90 degrees and score at 3 inches on the other 3 sides. So there's the left, the bottom, and the right are all scored at 3 inches. And that's going to bring me back to the one that I scored at 2 inches. And I'll fold that in. In this case, I'm going to fold the flaps in so you can see what that looks like instead of having the contrast like this one. I've done one piece. I need to go ahead and do my second piece. I like to always start with that 2 inch just so I don't forget and so I can be sure what is the top of my bag. I'm going to turn and score again at 3 inches, 3 inches, and 3 inches. And this scoring tool is really helpful to make sure my lines are straight and easy. Remember on my cardstock scoring earlier, I mentioned that I don't want to, with the cardstock, I might need to push a little heavier. With the designer series paper, I want to be a little more gentle because the paper is more fragile.
So if you don't have the pressing tool,
Yep.
Is there something else you can use?
Yes. So if you don't have that scoring tool, you can measure You can use a tool called a bone folder that can help you measure. You can also simply fold the paper. Let me show you. I'll try it on this stripe piece. So what I would do is mark, I have a ruler here someplace. Here it is. Okay. If I didn't have that scoring tool, I could mark my paper at 2 inches here and then 2 inches down at the bottom.
Mhm.
And then I would draw a line and then I would fold on that line. So I would take my ruler, mark a dot at 2, and I'll do that a couple times so that I can fold my piece. So I've got these pieces. I'm going to connect those and fold them.
Got
I can
it.
use my ruler to help me and just kind of keep moving down. This size paper is a little more challenging if you don't have a scoring tool, but it's certainly possible. So that would be my first score. Now, I'm going to crease this with my bone folder.
Or you can
And if
use
you
the
don't have a
ruler.
bone folder, the back of a spoon works beautifully. I've shared the story before how when I was in high school, I worked at the Chamber of Commerce. And one of my responsibilities was the mailings, and they were very heavy, multiple sheets of paper folded to put in these envelopes and seal up. And so my thumb would have been worn down if I didn't use the spoons to help me. Then
I'd
same
use the ruler for
process
that.
all the way around. The other 3, I would mark at 3 inches. Okay. So you don't have to have a scoring tool. It just takes a little bit longer, but you're going to do that scoring. Now we'll take our pieces and we're going to fold at all of those creased lines, scored lines. My bone folder helps me keep the creases neat. And just take your time. You're going to do the sides and the bottom for both pieces. Now remember, what's nice about our Zoom times is that there's a recording for you. So you can enjoy watching it with Julia, and then you can be able to watch the replay if you want to go back for any tips. I'll also be able to post for you a diagram that shows my cutting dimensions just to help you remember how to do the cutting. On one of my halves of the bag, I'm going to cut up from the bottom to that score line. So I've got the line from the bottom, I'm cutting up along the score line to the fold line. I'll set that aside, and now we'll do this process for the next one. To find where that 2 inches and fold. It's again, the bone folder or a spoon is really helpful. Keep folding the sides. I've made probably 300 of these in my life. It's a fun way to use the Designer Series paper to customize a gift. So if you picked a little scarf for someone, for example, that has certain colors in it, you could make a bag with paper that would coordinate with your gift. That's fun to do. Now this is the second half of my bag, and this time I'm going to cut that square completely away on the score lines. I'm cutting it, and I'll have 2 pieces that are 3 inches by 3 inch square. I can use those to make a gift tag. I could simply save them for another project, but they do coordinate obviously perfectly with this project if you wanted to use them to create a gift tag. Now for the assembly, we're going to use our green lid glue that, the Tombow multi-purpose glue. A little goes a long way. And if you also would like, you could use tear-in tape or a strong adhesive. Because the bag is going to be handled a bit, you want to make sure it's a firm attachment. In your kit, you also have a little piece of chipboard, and this is the packaging. When you purchase Designer Series paper, it comes in a pack of 12 sheets that are all coordinated patterns, and it's protected with this chipboard sheet to help keep it from wrinkling. So that's something else that you will see in your kit. And you can add this at the end, or you can glue it right into your project. I'm gonna go ahead and glue it in. So first I want to overlap. See these two flaps? They're going to be the next step. The first step is to to overlap the bottom designer series paper. Okay, so I'm going to put some adhesive. I'm going to fold those flaps out of the way for right now. I'm going to put my adhesive, a thread along the out. I know it's kind of hard to see the pattern here, or because of the pattern, it's a little hard to see, but I'm taking this 3 by 6 inch rectangle, covering that with some adhesive. And I'll line the bottom right up so that those are going to be one on top of the other. Sometimes it helps to hold it up to make sure you've got them right up against the scores. And then I can take this chipboard. If you have a piece with some printing on it, I suggest that's the part you put the glue on. So you're going to cover it up. This is just going to add some stability to the bottom of our bag. Now you can see, oh, actually, I think I did that at the end because I'm going to take that off. I have time before it's set. Hopefully you didn't glue yours yet, because what we're going to do is stand up these guys, these little flaps, and put them in first. Then we'll put the stability piece on top.
Okay.
So for the flaps, so you can see that I'm going to put adhesive on both squares. And these are just so much fun. They're really a great way to use the designer series paper to make packaging for your holiday gifts or birthday gifts year round. So you'll see how I could stand this up neatly because I did that scoring. The scoring is really going to guide everything. It's all right angles. So you're pushing the flaps down in the middle, and because they are those right angles, it's going to be nice and straight. Now we can go ahead and put our reinforcement there. And that just also covers up any seams here. Although I don't think any gift recipient would worry about what the inside of their bag looks like. So don't be afraid of that. Lastly, we're going to bring up the other side of the bag and secure that with glue. So you see it makes a nice sturdy rectangle box. Because it's overlapping here, several layers of designer series paper at the top, it makes it a very sturdy bag. Now now we have large flaps. We had square flaps that we put the adhesive on. Now we have the large rectangle flaps. We're just going to cover the glue. I'll do one side at a time. Because I have those nice, neat score lines, it's going to line up quite evenly. Sometimes there's a little bit of mismatch because of we're humans, and so when we're using tools, we might have it be not exactly the 3 inches, but trust me that if you've done that careful scoring and creasing, it really helps make this box come together. There we are. Finish with this side. Sometimes I turn it and put my hand in here just to smooth those edges to help the paper grip itself. And then you'll notice there's a little bit of a little extra here, like because the glue is on the folded inside piece. I'm just going to drip a little in here, just a little, and then hold that down. You could also do that step before you fold things together. When it's flat, you can secure those flaps to the inside or the outside of your bag. I don't feel that's necessary, but you might, as you make these, you'll get a feel of how it can best go together. And you have extra paper. I gave you lots of sheets so you could have sort of an example bag and still have enough to make another bag too. So these things you'll see are different because in this case, the 2-inch top flap is folded outward, and on this one it's folded inward. It really just depends on your style and if you like the contrast between the two sides of the paper. I'm going to show you an alternate way to put your ribbon here too. In this case, I've made it more traditional gift bag where I've knotted the inside of the bag, the inside of the ribbon, that I've knotted the ribbon on the inside of the bag. And so you have handles like, excuse me, like this. For this one, I'm going to show you a little bit different way that I think is especially elegant. I'm going to use the hole punch to make 4 holes. Now, I just eyeball it. It's up to you if you want to do any measuring. What I'm going for is for like to make this a square and have that be in the corner. So I'm putting my hole punch in. I'm eyeballing it so that it will be approximately the distance here to make a square. You can mark it with your ruler, of course. This is 6 inches across, so you could mark it. I probably, hopefully got pretty close there, but it's right about the 1.5 and about 1.5 inches from the top down. Do the same on this side. There. Now, this ribbon is quite heavy. It's called a grosgrain ribbon. What we're going to do is pull both tails out from the inside. So I'm going to put one tail through this hole. And it's quite thick ribbon and stiff, so you have to give a little energy to it, but be mindful that you're working with paper and you don't want to tear that paper. Now, I want to have just a small handle. And what I'm going to do is just tie a square knot. Now, left over right, right over left is how I learned as a Girl Scout to make this pretty bow. And then the handle is on the inside here, but the outside has this little bit of decoration. So instead of having the 2 knots on the 4, of course, you'll have them across on the inside, I have a clean look here, and I have a little added design element to the bag. Now, when we work with ribbon and it's gone through the holes, it could fray a little bit or pull. So I'm going to just carefully trim that. And I'll turn it to do the other side. If you, so hopefully seeing it twice, you'll see that process. I'm pulling the ribbon from the inside out, both tails. Okay. And remember, what's nice is this piece here is double paper. It's 2 pieces of the Designer Series paper, so it's a little bit stronger than it would be. It simply reinforced the top. Okay, so we leave a little bit of the handle.
Make sure they match.
Yeah, try your best to have them be similar. And then we'll tie this bow. And you might choose, as you experiment and make more of these, you might make your ribbons longer. You could make a full bow instead of a square knot. You could make have a longer handle here, which is fine as well. So, but I do enjoy the way the bow now gives a little, I'm going to do that one again. I like the way the bow adds another design element, but I'm going to do my bow again. Give a little more to there. All right. So left over right, right over left to make a square knot. When you make a square knot, you should have this nice flat piece across the knot, and it looks more polished. There we are. We'll trim those. And this is a very elegant bag. There we are. There. So that's 2 variations of how you can add the handles and how you can alter the top of your gift bag. But like I said, they're a wonderful size for all kinds of gift giving. And it's a one-of-a-kind gift when you give something like this that you've made. We've talked before about there are people on our gift list that we'd love to give a $100 present to, but our budget might allow a $5 gift or a $3 gift or a homemade from our kitchen gift. And so when we dress up a gift, it just elevates the value. It's made with love, and I think people really appreciate that, even if it's a more small token gift. When we package it with love, that means a lot. So let's finish up by sharing with you how to make this folder that you can put cards in. If you're thinking of a wonderful gift to give to others, would be a set of cards. fits nicely inside here. You can put 3 or 4 cards with envelopes, and then your friend would have some beautiful handmade cards to gift to others. It also can expand enough to put candy, jewelry, all kinds of good things. A small book would fit in here. A small book, not a large book, but you might have a favorite book to share. So we're going to take a piece of our designer series paper. This time, let's see, trying to think what shows best with the camera. I think I'll go ahead and use the camouflage, sort of, not camouflage, but it's like a leopard print. On the other side, it has this hashtag with the black and white. So if you, all of these patterns today that I included have black and white on one side and then color on the other. What we're going to do is a little bit of origami. In this project, I don't do any scoring with any tools. I only fold with my hands, and then I can use the bone folder or the spoon, the creasing. So let's move this out of the way. I'll check my view to see if you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, I think I'm going to move that back a little bit. There. So we are starting with our 12 by 12 designer series paper on an angle at the diagonal. And we're going to fold it in half to make a triangle. So we're turning the diamonds, the square diamond, into a triangle. And I want my pink side to be the side that shows. So that's the side I'm having on the outside with my first fold. Now the next fold I like to call a kite fold. What we're going to do, or an ice cream cone fold, what we're going to do is bring in our paper from the bottom corner along the seam here, along the fold that we made. Now again, give yourself be patient with yourself as you're first learning this. This paper is somewhat stiff and can be a little tricky to fold, especially at this bottom part. So if you have a little bit of creasing or a little bit of tearing, don't worry. These are pieces that you're learning with and playing with, okay? So to make our kite or our ice cream cone, we're going to mirror both sides with a triangle here. Now at the bottom, this is where it might be a little crinkly or uneven. Don't worry, it will still be splendid. It just takes practice as you're doing origami.
Yeah, that does take a little getting used to.
It does, it does. And what I love about this project though is there is not any measuring. It's all just the folding. So we now have, we started with our triangle, now we have our ice cream cone, and we're going to bring up the bottom of the cone about 3/4 inch or an inch over that seam here. So this is creating the bottom of our pocket.
So would you say about a half
pouch.
inch is sticking out the top, or a whole inch?
Let's see, mine measured about 3/4 inch.
Okay.
I think as long as it's at least a half inch, that's okay.
Okay.
All right, you just want to make sure that tip is showing up because we're going to fold that over and it's going to lock things together.
Okay.
All right, so now it looks kind of like a boat. I don't know. When I used to teach elementary school, we would make 1,000 paper cranes for peace. Sadako and the 1,000 paper cranes. And so we had different tricks for the origami steps. We had the kite fold and the ice cream fold, and it was great fun sharing that with my students. We're folding both sides, and like a lot of origami, you do something on the left and you do the same on the right. So I'm now folding.
Is it exactly to the line of the other one? Yes,
it's right up against that triangle that we folded up first. You'll see mine has a tiny gap here. That's okay. But you're aiming for this to be against the triangle. And I'm probably confusing things by moving it up and down this way, but you'll find I'm left-handed, and so my dominance is on this left side. And then when I'm ready to fold in the right side, it's easiest for me to fold it in. Okay, yay, Julia, terrific. Okay, so we've got our pocket is just about ready, just about finished. We're going to take that tiny triangle, you're going to fold it down, and when we use our adhesive, that's going to lock behind the piece here. Okay, I'll show you on this finished one here too. It's that triangle has now folded over. And then the one more fold, and that's to bring down the top of the envelope. So this distance here is about 1/2 inch. And this point lines right up with the score line. That triangle is going to go, score line is going right down the middle. And the fold is just a little bit, about 1/2 inch on the left and on the right. Now to lock it in place, we can use some adhesive. And then Julia, would you like me to do that one more time, to do the process one more time, or?
No, I think we got it.
You got it. Terrific. Okay. And then, of course, people can watch the recording if they have need any other help.
Right.
So what we are going to do now is just put some adhesive to secure the pieces that we folded. So I have a little bit of glue at this tip and then down across the triangles, folding it over and folding that triangle in. Should make it a little bit deeper there. And you can use your spoon or your bone folder to help anchor that. And these flaps will also go ahead and use some adhesive. We only want the glue on the pink pieces. We don't want to secure and lock in the bag that way. So I'll just put some adhesive on this pink triangle, or whatever color you're using. You want to make sure it's not, this is the opening, so we don't want any glue on that opening. It does really help to, sorry for the shaking, it does really help to use a bone folder or a spoon to just help that glue set. And then you have this really fun pouch. I think it's great. Because of that initial score line that we made, it gives a good opening or depth where you can put quite a few things. Like I could fill this up with all kinds of stuff. It doesn't have to be flat things. Let's see if I can find my glue cover. Well, here's another glue. We'll put some glue in there too. So you can put all kinds of treasures in there and still be able to latch it, to close it up. Now, cool. If it's too thick, obviously, then it will start to come apart where the glue is. Now, I'd love for you to be creative with how you seal this. Like if you just put cards in here, the glue is a little bit too fat maybe. I think we could go, these things would fit in there fine. This is a little too thick. So if you have cards or an assortment of goodies in there, think about how you might want to secure this. I didn't include any supplies for that today. It's kind of a challenge. And it's not necessarily required, but you could have another piece of paper that kind of locks it down. You could tape it. You could use Velcro. Some crafters have little magnet dots, but you could tie a ribbon around it, which would be lovely. I love ribbon. So just a nice, generous piece of ribbon and tie a bow would be beautiful. So I hope that you'll enjoy working with the Designer Series paper to make some fun gift packaging for people you love. And these are great reusable items. So a lot of times I've given these to people and then they give them back to me with a gift, or they give something, they can pass it on to their neighbor. It's a nice gift that's has multi-uses and can be, it's not something people would just throw away. They would want to repurpose it. Great. So let's bring in our projects from tonight, our November 2023 projects. And I'll close just by sharing some little mini envelopes that I used. They're the same steps that we used to make the big one, but this paper was 6 inches by 6 inches square. So if you start, you could make 4 of them. If you have one piece of 12 by 12, you can cut it into fourths and you could make 4 little ones. And these are a great size for gift cards, or cash, or a photo, or a love note. So thanks everybody for taking part. It's been fun sharing November with you. I do invite you to take part in our in-person class, which will be November 17th at the public library. We'll be doing all kinds of fun things, including some heat embossing, if you want to learn that strategy, that technique. Great. Thank you, Julia, so much. I can just turn my camera quick. Let's see if I can say goodbye with my face. If I can do that. Let's see. I'll get it turned. So I can say thank you, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving to you. And again, thanks for taking part in our partnership with the Baldwinsville Public Library. Julia, I appreciate you so very much, and it's been
Okay.
fun to spend time together.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.